is talking through your early childhood, how you grew up in Bondi and how you became a professional surfer, and talks about the inequality the women had back then. Take us back to the very beginning when you first started surfing at Bondi Beach with half a board.
So I actually grew up at Puberty Beach, and my family were all big swimmers. And so there's 2 sets of twins in my family. I've got a twin brother and there's 2 older brothers. And we all just went to Bronte Beach every day after school. And then one day my brother had a Cool Light surfboard and he broke it in half. It's like made out of foam. And I started on half a surfboard. And then I managed to learn to stand up on the half a surfboard and got that feeling of, it's a bit like when you ride a motorbike for the first time, just that power of the motorbike. It's the same when you stand up on a wave and the wave's taking you along. I remember feeling that and just thinking, oh, like this is just amazing. I want to get a proper board. And so because our family didn't really have much, anything we wanted, we had to work for. And it was either collecting cans on the beach and towels and clothes to either have garage sales or cash the cans in. And would also do street cleanups where we would scour the streets of Sydney and get whatever we could and put that in the garage sale as well. And so, you know, it didn't take too long. Like, it was a lot of can collecting, but on a Sunday evening at Bondi Beach with it crowded, it wasn't too hard to collect all those cans. But you wouldn't have wanted to be in the neighbour because back then you used to crush them because it went on a full weight. And so it was a lot of cans to get that kind of money.
As you grew up in the 80s in Bondi, you describe in the book how difficult it was as a young girl to surf and to have your space. Like the boys were quite bullies back then. It's tough out there, right?
You know, it was like that everywhere. Like it was just a different era. Like women had to fight for everything everywhere. And, you know, like I even remember I was like 10 and here I am riding my skateboard down the beach. I've got my surfboard under my arm, a little swimsuit on. And I remember people whistling at me, and that's what they did then. And then you'd go in the surf and guys would talk between each other, even horrible stories about them, like bringing home girls that weren't ready to have sex and pretty much doing really horrible things to them. And because I looked like a little boy in the surf, had short hair, they're talking to each other like no one's there. And I'm hearing all these stories, just getting more and more scared of guys, like going, oh my God, is this what they do to girls? When they did see I was a girl, once they started to know me, they were probably nastier in the sense of they didn't want a little girl getting the waves. You know, there's always some nice ones. So I want those guys out there to know that I'm not a man-hater at all. It's just some men were bad and some were good. I remember one guy, he dropped in on me and he said, this is my wave, get off. And I go, no, I'm on the inside, it's my wave. And he just turned around and just punched me straight in the head. And so, like, didn't care that I was a girl. And it happened to guys as well. They would punch each other out. But just to happen to a girl, I was just blown away. So it does still happen. There's, you know, it's kind of, some of it's understandable in the sense, I don't believe in any violence, but some people are just so rude in the water. Like, it's kind of like you're driving a car and then you're about to pull out at the lights and all of a sudden all the cars behind you just come around in front of you. You just don't do that, and that's what's happening in the surf. There's a lot of really, like, no etiquette. It's just not safe. Like, sometimes if someone drops in on me nowadays, I'll just go really close and push them off the back of the wave because that's safer than riding a wave, but it's almost the norm now that it's just that crowded. But I think the thing that really made me tough was growing up with 3 brothers. So I had my brothers picking on me all the time. It was not one thing, it was another. And so because I got used to being a tough little girl with 3 brothers, when I went out into the real world or into the ocean, it was normal. I had the same thing at home, same thing in the surf. It wasn't until this movie came out, Girls Can't Surf, many years, you know, as an adult, many, many years later and retired. I got a lot of beautiful messages from people that I grew up with and people who were inspired after the movie. But one in particular I really liked, it was a girl saying, you probably don't remember me, but I was sitting on South Bondi Hill with you and we're both eating meat pies. And these boys come up to us and started being really mean and going, you can't eat pies. Girls don't eat pies. And I just turned around and went, get fucked. We'll do what we want to do. And they're all like, and walked off. And she said that actually helped her through her life of just me sticking up to the boys, realising that girls can stick up for themselves, because she'd never, ever seen a girl stick up to any boys ever. And so she saw someone stick up for themselves and she went, I'm going to do that. And then that's what made me really realise how important it is in the movie and even with my book, just to share the real you. And just, I don't know, I just feel like, there was other things that happened after the movie as well, where I inspired someone who felt suicidal and they really had enough. And then when they saw the movie, they went, oh, my God, like you had arthritis, but you became a world champion. And she said, I know the agony I'm in. If you can become a world champion, I can keep going in my life and put up with day-to-day stuff. And so I realised just how important it is to be honest and share your true story.
And Pauline, though, you have always done that. In reading that book, that's what you feel. While you might have not come out until a little later, and we're going to talk about that, but like you always wore your heart on your sleeve. I mean, I could talk to you forever about your early time, growing up, your hardship, trying to get the money together to buy your first plane ticket to compete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is incredible, just an incredible drive that you had within. And then you decided, am I going to be a professional surfer or not?
And so I left school, like I was just started to do year 11 and I was struggling at school. And then I had this opportunity to be a pro surfer and I'm like, bugger it, I'm going to surf. But, there's other things I did as well. Like when I was at school, the school would let me do mufti days, and that's where you can wear anything you like, but you have to pay to have that privilege. And then the money went to me. And then they also let me I was allowed to make as many cakes or as many toffees as I liked and sell them at school. So I was making toffees and cakes every night and then selling them at school the next day. So I guess the thing that's very different is I grew up like that. And so I grew up with my mum, seeing her even build, like she wanted to have birds and we wanted guinea pigs. And she goes, I'm going to build a big aviary for it. And then we needed a shed in the backyard and she went and built a shed. And then we needed new chairs because they were falling apart. And then when we did our tip run or our, scavenging off the streets, she went and learnt how to do upholstery. And she made these 3 crappy looking chairs she got look brand new by reupholstering them all. So a big part of my personality was seeing my mum just be a very strong woman and just keep going. And so for me, it was like the norm, really, just because of my upbringing.
So even when you started winning on the world tours, you didn't get a lot of money. There was the prize money was always less than the boys, but you were very inventive. You bought some Levi's jeans and you sold them in France and for profit, or you bought this weird-looking bike.
Just anything, yeah.
Anything.
I bought this really long cruiser that at that time you didn't see them anywhere in the world except for in America. And so because we had the chance to go to America where everything was very different to France, I would just buy whatever I can and resell it. And then I kind of call all the people around the world that were my friends my sponsors, because they're all the ones that were helping on-sell my stuff that I would bring. I would obviously give them a few pairs of jeans because I'm staying with them. And so it's a win for them, a win for me, and then even, other people there. So it was nice. Like people would actually look forward to me coming each year. But I also had this really lovely family connection around the world. So even I did have sponsors I would always pick really tiny companies. And then those people would just be amazing. Like I had a board sponsor and a wetsuit sponsor in France. And they took on, like I'd say to them, there's like 15 girls coming for a qualifying event. Can you guys help them out? And then the guy who made my wetsuits would let them all stay at his house. So we had like 15 girls all over the lounge room staying everywhere. And then the same thing happened with the board shaper. There's a few times I had 4 or 5 girls come and I said, could you help them out? And he'd find them somewhere or let them stay with me. And so those families around the world had a very big part in not just myself, but a lot of the women of helping us survive.
I can't imagine that you would have done it for 20 years. You've been on the tour, right? Mm-hmm. That you would have done it with that little recognition that you received financially for that long if you would not have had that family support.
Totally. You know, I really loved what I did. I loved seeing the families. I loved competing. I did love to show off and try and surf really well. And that's actually why I named my book Surf Like a Woman, because back in my day, they'd always say, you surf like a man. And I kept saying it all the time, you surf like a man, instead of saying you surf with strength. And, I just wanted so bad to surf well in front of people that was my massive drive. And I had a good time. Like, if you ask anyone on tour that was on tour when I was there and who was the most entertaining or silly, they always say Pauline. And with the book, that was actually probably the hardest thing, is the book could have been like 4 books, is cutting it down to just like some of the stories, because there's like so many amazing things that I did on tour, and we had to like pick what we thought was the best to put in it.
Incredible. Like, one of my favorite parts has to be when you won the world title. Leading up to it though, when you went to Africa with your then girlfriend, to the initiation ceremony. I mean, I just shook my head when I read this. You were in so much pain on the morning of the competition with your arthritis. You didn't think you could like even walk into the water, and your girlfriend took you to a tree.
The partner I had at the time lived in Gabon in West Africa, and her family owned a resort. And so I got to stay there, and after staying there, I went there twice actually, and after staying there quite a while, I started to learn a little bit about the culture there, and they still actually have forms of cannibalism there, where it's like if there's a king or queen, someone will get killed to be buried with them, or they will eat someone's body parts. And so all this was, again, like it's in Gabonese, then translated to French and then translated to English for me. But basically, the things that happened to me were my partner's dog the dog got its head chopped off. So we found the dog without a head. And then this local family was looking for one of the family members and couldn't find them. And then through the grapevine, they'd heard that one of the local queens had died of one of the tribes, and they believed that they were sacrificed for her. So that's the first story I heard. And then the second story was I was in the restaurant, and like this resort was run on generators, and it was really in the middle of nowhere. And this guy just comes out of the bush, and he's starving, he's filthy, just needed a drink. And we're like, what's happened? And basically, again, the translation from Gabonese to French to English, I was told that a tribe wanted one of the tribal members, which was the guy's son, to bring him back because they wanted to eat some of his body parts. But this is exactly what I was told. So they basically said that's what was going to happen to him. But the guy, the son, and his best friend were the ones that went and got him and said, you got to come back to this, we're going camping. But the friend couldn't stand it and told him what was going to happen to him. So he escaped, and he escaped out into the resort that we were in. And so I was told that story. And then the next time I went back, which was the time before the world title, I got invited to a tribal dance. And so in the back of my head, I kept wondering, like, could this be true, all this stuff? And so
that made sense, because you did talk in the book about how scared you were to even go there.
Yeah.
Now I understand it, yes.
Yeah, and so all night they also make you have this plant. It's a plant called ibuga, and that heightens whatever feeling you have. And so because I was quite nervous and a bit hyper, I just remember them giving me this rice shaker and shaking this thing, and they're dancing around me. And then the head chief has these flames, and he comes right up to me with these flames, and I'm thinking, oh no, he's going to burn me. And then he's put marks with the side of the flame sticks with the ash on my body. And then he did the same thing to my girlfriend. And then at the end of the night, for a gift, he said that they were going to tell our fortunes. And in the fortune, he said, he had no idea about my life, but he said, you do a dangerous sport in the ocean. He didn't know what it was, but he said, you do a dangerous ocean sport But if you want to be the best, you need to give back to Mother Nature and find the biggest tree around and give it food and water. And then the night finished, and in the morning, this guy, one of the young guys, has been given a plate of ibuga, like a whole plate. So he's really off his face. And to make sure, so there's still, even though they dance together for the event, there's still a very big difference in men and women. And so to make the children and women scared of men, the initiation is women and children can't come outside of a building, or the person that's in this big suit that's been eating all this ibuga all night is allowed to hit or kill them. And so the story goes on and on in the book, but basically I thought I was going to get eaten or killed there. And when I left and we were driving home the whole 3 hours in the forest, I was like laughing the whole way back, just going, oh my God, we survived. And you know, like really, who knows if all those stories are true or whatever, but that's what I was told. And I was freaked out because I thought, you never know. There's lots of little details I've missed out too, but you'll have to read the book.
You have to read a book.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I mean, this whole book is full of stories that you shake your head. I mean, seriously, it's a great book and it's so well written. We haven't talked about you talk about it in your book about the arthritis you're suffering, and how it actually difficult for you to surf from time to time.
So many times most of my life I'd have good times and bad times, and I'd have to wake up really early in the morning and have a shower, get a massage, even go at the contest area. They'd have, like, my girlfriend would just give me the massage as good as she knew how to do. But then I'd get to the contest and have, a hired person there do another massage and stretch and just try and get my body normal. And a lot of times I blew myself away that I could surf. I just still had that massive desire to want to win. But the year that I was going for the world title, I just won in Japan, and so I was really set to win the world title. And then I don't know what happened. I ended up getting diarrhea in Japan, and I was still okay when I left, but then when I got home, I was really riddled with arthritis. And so I don't know for what reason that triggered it, but maybe just losing all those electrolytes and everything, my body just freaked out. And I basically felt like I'd done, I don't know, a 200K marathon, and how you'd feel 2 days after it, your whole body aches. That's what I was like everywhere. And then about 3 weeks passed, and I saw my coach, and he didn't say it to me at the time, but he looked at me and thought, there's no way she's going to Hawaii. She can't even walk. So basically, to show you, my elbows were stuck like that. I couldn't straighten them. I couldn't turn my neck. So like even to brush my hair, I was like doing this kind of thing. And my wrist didn't bend back. So, and even just touching like that was like, almost even touching my fingers, it was like there was glass inside them. It was that painful. And so then I just thought I need to try and do my best to get as healthy as I can. So I went and saw a naturopath, a guy who was a masseuse and a naturopath at home, and he put me on the right track of trying to eat better. And then time went quick and I was not really getting much better, and I thought I need to just go to Hawaii and try and just different atmosphere, try and, I don't know, practice if I could. And then when I got there, I realised I still couldn't, and I was still so bad that I ended up going to a doctor and getting cortisone, and it didn't work because she didn't get it in the exact spot. And then I saw another pro surfer, and she said, oh, I know this guy that can put your body in time. And I said, oh, do you really think that's going to work? And she said, just try, like, we got nothing to lose. So I flew to Kauai and tried that. And I was probably about 25% better because I was walking really crookedly as well. And so instead of completely walking like this, I was, that little bit better. I'm like, that's great already, just any improvement. But the day the event started, I could hear the ocean already when I was at home, and I was like, oh no, it's big. I can hear it's big. And here I am, I'm basically like a 90-year-old lady. So this 90-year-old lady's in the shower trying to warm up, Nadezha's massaging me, and I get to the beach and I'm like, oh my God, it's so big. And I managed to get a really big board just to try and get into the waves earlier. And I was still hobbling to the beach, still paddling out crooked. But as soon as the hooter went, I was just possessed and just surfed like there was nothing wrong with me. I do remember some of my waves taken off on my knuckles because I couldn't bend my wrists enough. But, yeah, just that insane desire to want to win, I just would be fine as soon as the heat would start.
So you missed out that part where your girlfriend took you to the tree.
Yeah, I actually did that quite a number of times. It wasn't.
Did you really?
Yeah, so it wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't just in Hawaii. I actually did it about 5 times, and every time I would feed, like they said to do when I was in Gabon, feed the tree. Every single time I won, and there's even a funnier story with that is I was telling another girl surfer, Sam Cornish, about it when we're in Santa Cruz, because that's the event I won. One time I was telling people this African story and they went, oh my God, we've got the biggest tree. So they made me feed their tree and then I won the event. The next year Sam's with me and I was telling her about it, and then I stayed there talking to a friend fixing my board, and I actually had some lunch left over and I didn't realise she'd grabbed the bit of my lunch and she went and fed the tree and I didn't even know. And then when we got home, she said to me, oh, just letting you know, I took the rest of your lunch and fed that tree. The next day she won the event. So it's really weird. Like, I don't normally believe in that kind of things, but it's just weird how it just kept happening that way.
That's a great story. It's a great story. Pauline, let's talk a little bit about you coming out.
Mm-hmm.
At what stage? Like, you traveled with your coach for a while, but at one stage you decided that you are coming out and you're no longer hiding who you are, because you very much are a person who is real, and it would have affected your performance if you can't be your truly self.
Yeah, I found it really hard because I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I always have been a very truthful and honest person, and whoever I meet, I'll talk to you like I've known you for 10 years. I don't treat anyone like strangers. And so for me, living this life of not coming out was really hard. And the reason I didn't come out is I would hear nonstop people saying, oh, like Jodie Cooper's gay, what a waste, or she didn't get sponsored because she's gay, or the murders in Bondi happened to be one of my neighbours that was killed. Just another pro surfer, she got beaten up as well. And so you're hearing all these horrible stories. I just thought it's much safer if I don't come out. So I only came out as much as the people I travelled with. I stopped hiding it from all of them and I was able to be myself. I came out in a few French magazines, but I didn't really come out for most of my career. Like, even now I see people are reading about the book and they're like, oh, I didn't know she was gay. So I never really did this big announcement, which I don't think I needed to. For me, the book was really important, just to be truthful for every part of my life and hopefully inspire someone. Like, there might be another little young girl there that is gay who isn't sure whether they come out. And I mean, I think it's really sad on the men's tour, because without a doubt there's some gay men on the tour that have to be. When you look at statistics and just because of the way the surf industry still is, but just their attitudes, you know, like even Tyler Wright, because she's so openly gay and has open comments, she gets attacked online quite often. So you need to be quite thick-skinned and ready for it. And, you know, as an adult now and have lived my life, you know, I had a couple of comments after the movie, but I just delete, just don't let it get to me, don't worry about it, because that minority who are uneducated, they'll always be there. So I think it's worth it for the people that you can inspire.
If you would have surfed 30 years later and you would have become the world champion, your life would look quite different.
Totally. Absolutely. Like, you know, I think about the only reason I retired was because, again, not enough money, and I did have ill health with the arthritis. But if I had the money, I could have probably got a lot better care. And I never really wanted to stop. I loved it so much. And, you know, even seeing Kelly Slater now, I go, I probably could have lasted as long as him if I got that amount of sponsorship and stuff. But I kind of like the person I became. So, like, this is one thing I like to say to everyone. There's a positive in every negative. And so if you look for the positivity in all the negative, there's always positive stuff. And so, like, I became such a strong, determined person because of what I went through. I might not have been that if I had it all handed to me. And, you know, like, people sometimes think, oh, why did that happen? And it's not until if you really look at it, or you look at things you learn, you can go, okay, that's the positive thing in the negative part that happened to me. And if you look at things that way, you'll find you'll have a very different outlook on, you know, because sometimes you'll get thrown 10 things in your life and it's just like, okay, what am I meant to learn here?
It's just incredible to look at now 20 years later, you finally start getting some recognition. It started off, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think it started off with the film, Girls Can't Surf.
Absolutely.
And out of this, Christy, the producer, he is trying to get a statue erected in Bondi Beach. I think there is a crowdfunding campaign going right now because I think Waverley Council agreed to it.
So basically, we're waiting for that last rubber stamp, and then we're going to be starting to do a big push for it or campaign for it. They're just waiting to get that last rubber stamp, but basically, there's still a GoFundMe up at the moment. It's called Pauline and Bronze. And for me, it's such an important thing to happen. And it's not because it's me. It could be any other woman. It's because I still think about me going down that hill at Bondi and not seeing any other girl to look up to or any other, other woman that had achieved it. And also you look around Australia and you try and find a woman's statue, that it's so important that it happens.
Bondi is such a famous beach, and yet you are the only person who brought home a world title.
Exactly. I'm really excited about it. They've started doing some of the little mock-ups and stuff like that, so I got to have a little sneak peek. I'd personally love to see one of me actually surfing. I think they want one more of me standing up holding my board. I actually want the statue to be of me when I was a kid or a young adult, because I want them to see this young person that achieved it, not now, like, you know, I want them to go, oh, like, I want to be her.
You know, there is some recognition there now, which I think is wonderful for you.
I do caring, and I care for a friend who has MS, and I also went to the para surfing event in Byron Bay, the first pro surfing event for people with disabilities. And I just realised how terrible that accessibility is in our community at every beach, and how much I love the ocean. And you just think, if you just were in a wheelchair for one day, where are you going to go to the beach? And all the beaches you go to, where can you get actually onto the sand? And so now I've started, that's a bit of a passion thing I'm doing. Like, I was at a council last week talking to them about beach accessibility. So, yeah, I do feel a lot for the community and the underdog. So basically, you know, what I was doing on tour, speaking up for the women, I still feel like I need to do that for people. So it's amazing that the World Surf Tour in, I think it was 2017 or 18, got equal prize money. I never thought that would happen in my lifetime, and I was so excited to hear it. But now I'm still really pushing big time that the women have the same amount of competitors as the men. And Jessie Myler-Dyer is now the new head of the WSL. And so she's the head, being a female, and also was a professional athlete herself, a surfer as well. I'm hoping some big changes are coming. But there's one woman in particular who I'd like to mention. Her name's Lucy Small, and she watched the documentary Girls Can't Surf. And after she watched it, she said quite a few words similar to what Pam said in the movie about, we do the same travel, we train the same, we have the same expenses, we're surfing the same wave, so pay us the same. So she basically said that in her speech, and that speech went viral on the internet, and she ended up getting a whole lot of interviews. And she thought, you know what, now that I've got all this attention, and it's something that's really peeved me off, including never having women in the magazines, I want to make change. So she's gone political, and she's gone to Canberra, and she's now pushing for the government to have equal prize money, equal acceptance in all sports. women are celebrating the soccer and stuff, but it just shows you, like, the men loved it. They're like, this was like the best sporting event ever. And women's sports has gone through the roof. People are watching it. So there's absolutely no excuse now in today's world that it's any different. Any sport, any workplace, it's time. Step up.